Welcome, everyone, and we're going to keep this moving and try not to be too much of a yawner, although some of this is hard to avoid. We're going to have a 2-hour meeting from 9 to 11. Love her spirit. We have an annual report which is downloaded to Whova, possibly uploaded. I'm not sure which term is more correct. So if you want to check out the annual report, you'll find it on the Whova app. I think this is not the right slide. Okay, let's go ahead here. Yeah. Here we go. All right. So when we come to the election portion of the program, those of you who are the designated representative from your membership group will be allowed to vote. Those of you who, if there's multiple folks from your group, only one of you can vote. Did you receive an email from our staff notifying you or having you respond and let us know which one of you will be voting today? If not, we're just going to have to do it on an honors system. If you're the designated voter for your group, please vote, otherwise do not. Later in the meeting, we're going to initiate some discussion and specifically about strategic planning. We're concluding the last bit of a 3-year strategic plan. We're about to start a 5-year cycle from 2020 in January through the end of 24. We'll have a 5-year strategic plan, which hopefully we'll have finalized and approved by January 1. What we want from you guys today are your ideas for what you'd like this organization to focus on and accomplish in the next 5 years. We want to include you. A lot of times this process has been not as inclusive as we're going to make it this time, so we want you, if you come up with ideas, you can raise your hand during the discussion portion of the meeting and we'll take notes. And if you just want to think about it and give us information and feedback via email later, we'll consider that also. So you don't have to do all your thinking here and now. You'll have time to give us input later. All right. I'm not taking credit for this. The entire organization accomplished these things. We developed the portfolio review process for the CETMB, which is Certified Educator, Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork. Yeah. Whooping is allowed, apparently, so that's good. This is an important thing. We finalized the model curriculum for teacher training programs. And what that means is that if you are doing a teacher training program, we're going to ask you to have your program conform with a template. And we will ask you to map your curriculum and compare it to that model curriculum in order to be an approved teacher training program so that your graduates are directly eligible for a certificate. We received a $75,000 grant from the AMTA, which we're really appreciate. It's really allowed us, yeah. That was polite applause, almost a golf clap. I would do a whoop on that one myself, but yeah. Woohoo! The grant will be dispersed over 2 years, $50,000 the first year, $25,000 the second. We have now launched the certificate program. not certification. There's a distinction, because that's, we've been round and round about that. Anyway, the program is launched. We have received two folks are applying. One has submitted their portfolio, and that is about to be put out for review by our portfolio reviewers. We also hired the project manager, portfolio reviewers. We have advocated for the coalition. We meet with the Coalition of National Massage Therapy Organizations. It happens in the first week of May every year. And that's another thing during the strategic planning discussion. If you have ideas for what you'd like us to take to the coalition meetings, what you would want us to try to advocate for on behalf of the education community, you can make suggestions in the strategic planning. We have an enhanced social media campaign. There's been a slight uptick in membership. We're concluding the 3-year strategic plan, and then there's various other things that we've done as an organization. The president usually has the responsibility for running the board meetings, running the executive committee meetings, meeting with staff, because the president is the designated supervisor of staff. I also represent the Alliance on 2 other boards, ACIH and IHPC, and attended a few meetings. So that's it for my report. Penny Jeffrey, she is our vice president. She's not able to be here today. I think her responsibilities at North Carolina State University conflicted with this conference, and she chose to keep her job. So she's not attending. Yeah, we thought that made sense. Anyway, the VP's role is to support the president, stand in place of the president when unable to function, oversee the function of all the committees, and then she was also specifically the board liaison to the certification process committee and was responsible for overseeing and coordinating the process of developing the portfolio review process. She was on the task force with a couple other folks, including me, to search for our project manager, and we found Deanna Sylvester. We had about 80 applicants for that position. It was almost overwhelming. We had a lot of work to do just to process the number of applicants and try to find the top ones and then interview. And it was a really in-depth process. But Deanna rose to the top of that group, and I think we're very happy with that hire. Penny was also the committee chair for searching, and that's what I just talked about there. Okay. Normally, our VP chairs a meeting of all the committee chairs and board liaisons once a year, so that all the different members of committees can understand the work of the other committees and see their role in the big picture. Because if you're just doing the work of your own committee and you have no connection with the rest of the organization and the work that's going on, you can feel a bit isolated, a bit disconnected, and unclear as to how your piece fits in. So that has worked well for folks to see their part in the whole picture. And there you go. I've kind of touched on the other stuff. So that's Penny and me. Now I'm going to pass the mic to Sandy Mason, who is our treasurer. And she also, as the treasurer, according to our bylaws, she is the chair of the Finance Committee and the board liaison to the Finance Committee.
One thing I would like to express a lot of gratitude for, the Leadership Development Committee. Thank you so much, because I have a working and very knowledgeable Finance Committee to work with me. It's really essential for the health of the finances of the organization, which is essential for the health of the organization itself. So thanks for giving me people who know what they're doing and can help me figure out what I'm doing. Our mission and mandate: the financial functions of the Alliance serve to support its broader mission. Everybody kind of sees that. That's one thing that Penny Jeffries helped me see when we were doing our meetings as board liaisons, was that the finances of this organization are part and parcel of every single one of the committees. So it's not just me, I'm involved with all the rest of it too. So it makes me feel like I'm more supported, and that we are all working towards one common goal. Of course, the financial practices underpin the ability of the Alliance to survive, to thrive, yes, and undertake projects and activities that reflect its mandate. And we're committed to stability, accountability, and integrity in the function of its financial affairs. So I think that, as Stan already mentioned, that our annual report is on the Whova app. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to see the details, that's where you find some pie charts and some the profit and loss statement, some quarterly profit and loss statements at that point. And here, we're just going to, the basic accomplishments that we had is that we have a functioning budget. Yay, that helps. Recently approved by the board of directors, and we're working on budget to actual reports so that everybody can see how well that's working for us. But it's sort of an ongoing organic beast, that budget, so that we can work and try to adapt it to what we're doing. Since we're starting something really new this year in the teacher certification process, what kind of income is going to happen from that, and what kind of expenses are going to happen because of that are new to us. So we're working on that. We've got a plan, and we will adjust it accordingly. The AMTA donation has taken a huge burden off of us, and we're just really, really thrilled that they are committed to improving teacher qualifications throughout the country in this profession. We always review and update the financial policies each year, and this year, close to my heart, is that we did an upgrade to QuickBooks, and any of you who use that, you realize that that's sort of an integral tool in trying to create reports and also keep the finances straight. Our net assets as of July 1st, 2019 are up here on the board. That includes cash and receivables. So it's a little bit of an awkward slot for us to look just at July 1st, but this is because it's right before the Congress, but it's also right in the midst of our AMTA donation and also our teacher certification revenues. So this is kind of just a little snapshot of where we are at the moment.
The revenue that the organization has survived on over the first 10 years of operation are membership and conference revenues. In the future, we'll include teacher certification or teaching certificates, revenue from that program, and also teacher training. So right now, those are the two main, and hopefully our finances will be enhanced as we move into these new programs. Ginny Olson is the executive director of the Massage Therapy Foundation. Emmanuel is a school owner in the Chicago area and a businessman, and he's just very knowledgeable as well. Okay, so now we're on to strategic planning. Bev?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to start by saying that I came to my first conference 8 years ago. It was in Tucson, where I live, so it was easy. But I got so excited about being amongst my peers and, oh wait, there's other people out there who are doing what I do, and I get to be with them for a few days. So it got me jazzed enough to be involved, and I have been on the board for a while. I am going to be giving up my seat. So I just wanted to thank everybody and thank you guys for my experience. I really appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun, and I would highly recommend it to anybody. So, yeah. And I was quite involved in the development of the first strategic plan, and I'm happy to be passing the baton on to one of the new board members, probably, who's going to do a great job with it. But I feel good about giving some ideas and some thoughts about how we might shift gears and do something different, which is a more inclusive process. So I hope that goes really well this morning for everybody, and as we move forward. And that's all just based on some experience that I have doing it for another organization. So that's where all this little shift is coming from, and I hope it goes really well, but I think it will. Yeah, okay. So we've got a mission to extend the existing 3-year strategic plan to continue focusing on the main goals of the organization, as well as other items that address the needs of the organization. We want to give guidance to the activities of the board as well as the committees through that strategic plan. But as Stan said, we're going to be looking for input from you guys with regard to possibly what else we might be thinking of, what else we might be doing, how could we look at things a little differently maybe, okay? We approved the first strategic plan in 2018-19 in their May meeting in 2017. And we're also really honing in on developing and streamlining a plan to review and update the report on a regular basis. So that's how the whole committee will work. So this is certification process. So I would like to thank Stan, definitely Stan. He's been instrumental in just kind of helping me be a good board member in general, but also with the strategic plan. And Sherry Manti, is she here? Sherry here? No, but she did a great amount of work, and we really appreciate her efforts as well. So thanks.
Hi, just real quick, I'm Virginia Cowan. I was in Dr. Virginia Cowan. I joined the Certification Process Committee when I've worked in higher education and integrative health research for about 18 to 20 years, and left the university and took the course curriculum things that the university was discontinuing and put it in an online platform, and poof, I'm a CE provider. So then there was a category for me to actually join the Alliance. And so I joined the Alliance and said, I'm happy to volunteer. I've got a background in higher ed, and my skills could be a little bit useful. And I think Ruth might agree that I kind of jumped in and was able to help out with this. Penny was, Penny, Ruth, Celia, Cindy. Cindy's around here somewhere. I haven't met her in person. Okay, I've met you on the phone, I think. Sandy and myself did a whole lot of work on the certification process. The mission and mandate is to complete phase 4 of the NTESP in collaboration with the NTT CDC. And all I can tell you is that CDC does not mean Center for Disease Controls. So we can look that up in the report. And the major accomplishment was really 2 things that you'll see a little bit later this morning, and then unfolding right now as we speak online. One is the portfolio certification pathway for the educator certification program. So we're getting all our certification words here right here. And hopefully you've all seen the news announcements and the press releases that we had 6 people complete the beta test to really make sure that the methodology worked. I mean, beta testing, the words came into our being with a lot of the internet websites going up and crashing and that kind of thing. But there were some volunteers who worked with that as well to ensure that this certification is an accurate representation of you as educators and what you do. And it's not just educators in massage schools, but it's also CE educators. So there was a lot of work that went into this, a lot of really good, healthy discussion. The other thing where I kind of jumped in was the teacher training curriculum. And this model curriculum, the board is still discussing what it is that we do with this, but the idea that based upon the assessments that have been done, what are the sort of knowledge, skills, and sometimes would add in attitudes that are associated with an effective massage therapy educator. So the curriculum, again, has been around for a little while. When we came in and the committee was trying to figure out what to do with it, I said, well, have you mapped it? They're like, mapped it? Have we mapped it? Well, generally, you write a curriculum, you write courses, and then once you offer courses, you go back and map them to make sure that you're meeting your objectives. We went ahead and did that just to make sure that we had some areas that were covered in our model curriculum and looked at areas that were under-covered. And so that was really enlightening, I think, to kind of look at the hours to make sure that we weren't overrepresenting in some areas and spending a lot of time, but really looking at things that were effective for massage therapy educators. I'm going to hit the button and we're going to see what we see on the next slide. That's not us. So we're going back. Okay. So what I can say just real briefly is that what I just described to you about the teacher training curriculum was hours of work. And I don't want to scare you off in hours of work, but it's been done. And it's hours of work that will benefit you as we go forward with the certification, with applicants, and also start to look at what criteria you might have for even hiring educators. And remembering, one of the things we talked about is educators can go out and get a master's degree in health professions education. That's fine, well and good. It doesn't necessarily cover what we do as massage therapy educators. So there's a lot of great work. You'll benefit from that as we move forward. And that's all I got.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the board liaison for the Conference Planning Committee. It's been my honor to also serve on that committee for a number of conferences, and when I became board liaison, that just seemed to be really a good fit for me. So I'd like to thank, first of all, some very important people with this. Nancy and Cherie, would you stand up? Let's give them a big hand for this conference. Yeah. Woohoo! This has been a lot of phone calls the last year. It's a 2-year process between them, but they start right away picking the new location. And then from there, it's logistical, just straight across the board. And Cherie and Nancy have mastered this and worked tirelessly. This is a very busy committee as far as things, especially the last, couple of months, tying all the loose ends up, and then also being here, getting things ready, stuffing tote bags, making sure everybody, all the exhibitors and everybody are happy with everything, the prizes. So it's been great. But the other committee members are Ruth and Diane, Dale, Victoria, Leela, and Dee Vickers. And all those guys were involved. Are any of those committee members here? Yep, Ruth's here. Anybody else? Yep, so stand up. You guys are on the committee. Thank you for being part of it. We really appreciate your time and effort. It pulls all these things together. So our mission and mandate was to plan and execute a conference every 2 years. It sounds simple, but boy, it's a lot of work. And anybody that's ever planned any kind of event kind of knows, getting everybody happy and getting all the little fine details. And I think what was Cherie's husband described you as what? Meticulous? Meticulous, yeah, that's what it takes. And she is our meticulous person. She just follows up and has everything in her brain. And having her sitting in one location is good because everybody just migrates to her to go, Cherie, 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 all weekend. So it's very good. So it's been my pleasure being on this committee, being a part of the committee and also the board liaison. So thank you guys for all being here. We hope to make it bigger and better the next time. Thank you.
So shocker, I'm the chair of the marketing committee. But the marketing committee is made up of myself, of Cherie Sonin-Mo, Randy Clark, Rebecca Fairway, and Wanda Allen. If you are on our committee, would you please stand and be recognized? I think just over here in the corner. Thank you very much, you guys. And we meet once a month. We do a Zoom call. How many of you guys use Zoom? Yeah, it's kind of fun to see everybody. It keeps people engaged. So we keep those meetings to no longer than 90 minutes, even if we're not done. And right now we're accepting nominations for 2 additional members to our committee. And of course, Naomi supports us very well as well. So our big picture is basically we had to update the marketing plan from 2 years ago. We do that actually annually. And the committee members brainstorm and also plan all of our social media. We also work with a marketing company. We have a marketing company that we pay to assist us in the execution of some of this because a lot of us are not technology wizards. So we schedule campaigns, some different campaigns throughout the year to promote visibility of the organization as well as engage our members. And we also assist the staff with a lot of the content and themes for the monthly newsletter. Our specific tasks, sorry, this is the boring stuff. We have to, I mentioned, update the marketing plan. We submit a budget. Our mandate is to increase social media engagement as well. We submit a monthly report to the board. And we also contribute to the newsletter. Each month, a different committee does a little report for the newsletter. A little bit more fun is as a part of our committee, we celebrate what's going well each month. In fact, we get down and we ask each member, what's going well? What are we celebrating this month? What went well for you? We promote the social media ideas through our own social media pages and engaging others who have a lot of followers. And you'll notice the hashtags that you can be using when you post on your social media accounts. We create visibility for the teacher certification program. Before coming here, had you guys heard about the teacher certification? Immediately following this meeting, you're going to hear a lot more about it. And so we're very excited that this is launching. And then part of our committee's responsibility too is we figure out themes for the newsletter, and we imagine and bring into being additional marketing content for special projects in addition to the Congress and teacher certification. So basically our mission and our mandate is to create visibility for the organization and engage our members. So the staff, I want to give a shout out. This is a fun picture, but you can let Lex Filipowski, his dad actually took this picture, so kind of cool. The staff, so Naomi, produces, does the website maintenance, actually goes ahead and does the press releases. We may write them, but in the execution, they design a lot of them. So they do a lot of the actual technical stuff. So that's why we have paid staff in place to handle the important stuff. They implement the campaigns. So when you get emails, that's actually coming from home office, from our headquarters. And our staff also coordinates our ideas and puts them into play with the marketing company that we do pay. Our committee also provides the monthly newsletter support, organizes ideas, written articles. So as a part of our committee, you get to be a part of all of this, generating ideas, brainstorming with other colleagues about the themes, submit articles to like Massage Magazine and Massage Today, and again, assist with writing those press releases. So those are our mandates, that's our vision. So what did we accomplish? We did complete the annual marketing plan. We contributed lively content for the monthly newsletter. We enjoyed much more consistency with our social media and added a how-to page, how-to videos to our website. That is at afmte.org. Promoted the Pay It Forward campaign. We engaged with presenters and exhibitors and sponsors. Did anyone see any of those Facebook interviews that we did? Yeah, it was kind of fun. It was a little bumpy to start. Sorry they were so long. But we got better and faster as the months progressed. We promoted an early bird campaign where people could register early for the Congress, and we promoted a Pay It Forward campaign. Our increase, actually, for the attendance for this Congress, we were up by almost 20%. so from 2017. So that was actually, yeah, I'm very happy with that, very happy. And the best is yet to come, 2021, man. I mentioned we held monthly meetings. We assisted with the promotional materials for Educator of the Year, assisted in the design of 2 postcards that went out to, I'm trying to remember how many people that went out to. It's like 1,000 people that it went out to as far as promoting the Congress and promoting teacher certification. And the AFMT was represented at MTRAC, so the International Massage Therapy Research Conference, and also at the Florida State Massage Therapy Conference. Just some stats for you. We had, in 2017, in August of 2017, we had 4,740 as far as our followers on Facebook. In August 2018, we had 5,246, and right now we have 6,186. So 6,186 followers on our Facebook page. That's some good engagement. Yeah, that's not bad at all. So we increased over the last 2 years by almost 1,500 followers, which is a 31% increase. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing what we post. And yeah, I think that's very good. Yeah, yes. And again, part of our challenge, part of our challenge is visibility. People just don't know we exist. As soon as people learn about us, they're like, oh my gosh, we should be a member. Yeah, I know. So that's the challenge that we face, is just creating the visibility. So with your help and in sharing those things that the AFMTE posts, whether it's on Facebook or on Twitter or on LinkedIn, it really does help us get some traction. So again, just some statistics for you. In 2017, we had a little over 1,200 followers on Twitter. We have a net increase of 128 followers on Twitter. We're over 1,300. We do have a very vibrant YouTube channel, and that is at AFMTE.org, and lots of videos on that channel. So feel free to join us, to follow us on YouTube. We've got a lot of engaging content. In fact, all of the board members did short videos to tell you who they are and kind of why they serve, and they're posted there. We do have an Instagram page as well. How many of you guys are on Instagram? Cool. Follow us. We put some stuff on there. Again, it's not, we're not looking to be a distraction. We're just looking to engage with you so that we can share your stuff, from your school, and you can share our stuff. We are new to Instagram, but we're not new to you guys tagging us. So here are some pictures that are tagged with the AFMTE from other conferences. So check it out. We've got just people having fun and enjoying the Congress, enjoying classes. And so we would love to nominate to acknowledge our virtual assistant, who is actually busy doing some stuff right now. Her name is Naomi. Naomi didn't sneak in the room, did she? No. But she's busy behind the scenes making everything run, and she really is. She makes us run as well, as far as the marketing committee.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And so now it is on to the Teacher Resource Development Committee, the TRDC. Dr. Cowan.
Hi there, I'm still Dr. Virginia Cowan, hasn't changed in the past 20 minutes. Teacher Resource Development Committee, shout out to Pete Whitridge. Pete, can you wave or stand or do jumping jacks or something? Yeah. He's been involved with the Alliance for a long time. Really a wonderful grounding member. Arlene Hassler is not here, but I understand is in the process of relocating her life. She is a massage therapist and librarian down in Florida, and it's extraordinarily helpful to have a librarian's input on this committee. Diane Mesnardo, who most of you met yesterday, was there for part of the year and stepped off the committee, and then I joined them as board liaison. We've met, for the most part, monthly and completed work in between meetings. So that's our committee members. If you are a teacher looking for resources, if you have ever served or used a CETL, if you even know what a CETL is, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, it'd be interesting to connect with Pete or myself. That's really the role of this function, if you will, in the Alliance, working to put resources together. So the charge of the committee is to assemble and continually update, I know y'all can read this, a list of resources. So keyword here is list of resources for educators to learn more about how to improve their teaching skills and to assist those who wish to design massage and bodywork teacher training programs. So that's the charge to the committee. But there are a lot of things that dovetail off of this based upon the work that we did when I joined this group. So we have completed but not yet released substantial revisions to an expansion of the resource list. So a couple things happened. One was in looking at the list, we were able to get information from Naomi to say that this area of the Alliance's website is used, which is great. It's also publicly available, which is not great, because it's really a perk for you as members to be able to go and look for things so that we're supporting you and we're engaging you. Its key word here is resource development, and it's really aimed at teachers. So that was one of my first questions, is why is this publicly available? But the second thing is that it's, when we looked at the materials that were in the directory, we hit a fork in the road. And the fork in the road was that it contained materials that were useful for you in the classroom, and it contained materials for andragogy, pedagogy, curriculum, and instruction that were useful for you as instructors. And along the way, I joined the EdNet Susan Salvo's Facebook group and started to look at the chatter there, and I realized teachers were asking for both all the time. I need something for my classroom. I'm looking for ideas to help my teaching. And as teachers, if you went to a Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning at a university, you would get both of those kinds of services. So we have enough materials, but then the other thing I did, because I'm quantitative, is I was like, hey guys, do you mind if I take this little spreadsheet and analyze this and see what we got? And we discovered that with everything in the directory, we had less than 60 unique resources. So we had a lot of entries, but some of them were duplicated across areas. So this is where the librarian's help comes in. So in looking at this and saying, if you're first looking for something, let's start with user experience. Am I looking to help my teaching, my pedagogy, my andragogy, curriculum, instruction? Am I looking for how to create a rubric? Or do I really just need that active learning resource? And so we started to categorize the resources in a big Google sheet and make entries. And Arlene and Pete both were able to start to look at broken links. Instead of linking to journal articles, let's link to journals. There's a really famous article in a medical education journal about integrated learning, and the subjects of the research were massage therapy students. So this is something that most of us massage therapists are like, wait a minute, have we found this information? So there's research in higher ed that's applicable to us that probably we're not really engaging with and talking about, and for some of you, at least for me, that would probably be interesting to at least put it out there for you to consume. So as we expanded our list, we have classroom materials, and it's educational resources, it's materials to use in your class, teaching strategies, activities, and it's everything from books and apps and websites and blogs and that kind of thing that will link us to information, links to publishers, links to textbooks. And then faculty development, again, books, websites, journals, blogs, organizations, and more. And the faculty development, originally we were trying to catalog everything based on the core competencies for teaching, and it wasn't working. And it wasn't working because we had information in two different paces. So we have a really nice functional list with, I think, now 150 unique resources, which is an improvement of our unique resources. So now we're looking at what do we do with it. And so this committee did, again, a lot of work, and not to put you off with a lot of work, we did a lot of work, and it was really fun, but we reached a point where, like, now how do we put it out there for people to consume? And came back to the board and said, should this be a resource for our members rather than a publicly available resource? And overwhelmingly it was like, well, yes, because we want to engage you with this. So going forward, we started to look at ideas, and we wanted to look at this reimagining and setting up the teacher resource directory for members. So it's behind the member wall, you have to log in, and it needs ongoing maintenance. It needs care and feeding, just like a pet. So here are a couple of examples that Arlene just kind of popped up. This is Monroe County Library in Florida, where you go into a library website. Now, it looks a lot different than the old card catalog in years past. And it's not just lists, but it's kind of looking at following your little breadcrumbs to figure out what it is you're looking for. And ultimately, we can populate with lists so that we can look at duplication but not overcount what we have. So that is one possibility that we looked at and said, okay, now how will we be able to do this? And then the other question was, how do we make it interactive for sharing amongst educators? So you see a recipe wiki here, and if you can't see in the back, this is just it's making things a little bit more visual. But with the idea that, and let me just ask, I like doing surveys. How many of you are educators in a massage therapy school right now? Not a CE provider specifically, but a school. Okay, all right. I want you to keep your hands up for a sec. And if you are not doing anything interesting or cool that you would like to share in your classroom, put your hand down. So some of you have stuff to share, right? And so how do you share the cool and interesting things that you're doing so that, number one, other people find out about it? This is a resource. You're here talking to each other, but likely some of us can benefit from each other. And as a resource, there may be ways to migrate towards sharing and engagement, to engage you and give you feedback in our resources. So one other thing, is there possibility for interactive venue? This is one of the questions that we arrived at. And another was a discussion forum for members. So not EdNet, the big massage therapy group with 1 million members, those kinds of things where people always ask kind of wacky questions. But do we want a discussion forum so that we start to engage our collective brain as massage therapy educators to further ourselves, both in primary education and CE. So this is what the Resource Development Committee is working at right now. It's fine, Pete or myself. We don't fully know exactly what talent we need on this committee, but we'd like some people with talent who can help us. I mean, anybody webmaster here? Well, and Naomi as a staff member has been great, but if we can better describe how to put our resources out there, we can grow this list. And then instead of running it to the Center of Teaching and Learning or running off to a library, you can come to us online and start to find resources and engagement what you need. And so it's taking our mission, we think, and making it better, and we'll see how it goes in the board meeting on Sunday in terms of the board thinks. So that's what I got for you. Moving on to leadership development.
Thank you. The Leadership Development Committee has basically 3 jobs. One is committee population. The committees in different ways let us know that they're looking for members. When we first started, there was quite a bit of, we want to form a committee and we need 5 people. At this point, it's a little bit more that the committees are established, and from time to time, they need help finding a new member or 2. We also advise the board in different ways. We're kind of a committee that's been around for a while and is made up of people who have a reasonable amount of organizational experience. So we can be a sounding board. Individuals can ask us questions, or sometimes we're asked to look at a particular issue. And that just happens as needed from year to year. And the third piece is to act as the nominating committee for the board. This is a big part of our job each year, and it starts with a month in February where we actually do detailed interviews with current board members, establish the needs, the openings and the needs to, for skills and experience sets to fill those openings, and then go on to engage with you and try to find the best candidates to meet those current needs. So that's essentially what we do each year. We are an elected committee because our origins are really as a nominating committee. We're I think, one elected committee in the organization. Mm-hmm. Current members, we're actually down a member, and you'll see that we have an election to fill our 5th member coming up. So current members include Joe Lubau, Tim Herbert, Sue Bibick, and Dawn, who is our board liaison. But I also just want to give a thanks to Bev, who was our board liaison for most of the year and segued off. A little bit more on the slate selection process. I think you will have experienced it as members, seeing us sending out different emails at different points in the year. But as I said, we start with a need assessment, a set of interviews, one-on-one in-depth interviews with board members. We then make a call for applicants. We interview all the applicants who come our way, recommend a slate, and you should have in front of you, if you haven't seen it, it should be sitting on your table, a handout that includes photographs and our rationale for why we've put someone on the slate, and also a message from them. So you see a page for each person in the handout that you have in front of you. And then we conduct the election, which is about to happen. So I just want to say, just for a moment here, how great it is to work with the members of this committee and to thank them. Again, Joe, Tim, Sue, and Bev and Dawn. We actually, in the course of doing our work, have to have a very kind of open and trusting and respectful dialogue. We talk over a lot of different things. We talk about the merits of individual people in terms of meeting a particular need or fulfilling a particular role or opening. And it's so great to work in a group that functions so well together and has that kind of collegial dialogue. So thanks to each of you again. This year has been another good year for us. And I'd like to actually call up Sue Bibick at this point to say a couple of things.
You almost made it through the day without me, but no, here I am. So one of the things that we do is we are always looking for people to help us grow the organization, and so we populate the committees, and not quite in as specified a process or procedure, but we do interview and look for who's going to be the best fit for the committees and meet the committee's needs. And you heard some really great invitations today. One I heard from Virginia, and we know we have invitations from the Conference Planning Committee. And we would love to do what I feel like many of us as founding members were wanting to do when we started this organization, which is not as in a hierarchical concept you would pass the torch. We want to light the torches of the rest of you who are sitting here and not doing what needs to be done to move our profession forward. Hi. So,
Underneath the chair of each one?
so yes, under your chairs you will find an invitation personally written for you. So one of the things that we did was we have a membership survey. I don't want you to be shy about this at all. This is not a commitment. You're not signing away your life. What you're saying is, I have a curiosity, I'm interested, I have some skills, I have this much time, or I will have this much time down the road. We want to know all of that because we plan on an annual basis for all of these things. And if you haven't taken the time to read this, I suggest just for your pure amusement, you pick it up. Tim Herbert and I had a very creative moment one Friday evening. Chardonnay may have been involved on my end. And we were putting this together. Certification Process Committee, you've earned bragging rights. Educational Congress Planning Committee, a party with a purpose. Finance Committee, show me the money, honey. Leadership Development Committee, who elected these people? Marketing Committee, shout it from the rooftops. Membership Committee, come join us and make it better. NTT CDC, this is Tim's sentence. Join so you know what the hell this means. Strategic Planning, who's got the map? TRDC, share what you know. So pick up one of these, okay? Fill them out. You can give them to any of us on the membership committee. I'm sure if you give them to Naomi, she'll get them to us. The other thing I want to say is you can do it off of the Whova app, okay? So you go into Whova, you go into Agenda, and on Agenda you'll see Business Meeting. You follow that, and you get to Education, or Election, okay, election process, and then that will take you to the link. Link to the survey, do the survey, and then what? You know what? You get to talk to one of us. And I mean,
Yay.
you get a conversation with one of us. And I can tell you, just from personal experience, I'm really engaging on the phone. So please, come join us, you know? We all want this thing to happen, so basically, get up off of your tush and make it happen. Thank you very much.
Way to bring it. Yeah, it's time for the election, and Joe Lubow is going to moderate that process. Joe?
Okay, good morning. Thank you, everybody, especially Deborah and Sue. So the board of directors is composed of 7 to 9 directors. There always have to be at least 7. The bylaws now require that there always be at least one member representing the schools stakeholder group, one representing CE, and at least one representing faculty. There can be more, and many of these folks represent more than one of those groups, and the board is currently, all four of those groups, including allied members, are all well represented. The current board, Stan is the president, Penny's the vice president. Should I say last names?
No.
Sandy's the treasurer. Beverly is the secretary, Bev. And Virginia, Dawn, Terry, and Jody are board members, and there has been one empty seat for nearly 2 years now, I think, right? So of those, these four are seats that are up this year for election. The other 5 seats were filled in last year's online election. So those 4, Dawn has a remaining year. I'm sorry, she doesn't have a remaining year. She is up for re-election, and rather than running for re-election in the seat that she's in, she is looking to fill the remaining year in that empty seat. So she's running for 1 year that is left in a term. Bev is resigning her seat, and Michelle Renee is running to fill the remaining 2 years in Beverly's seat. Randy Clark and M.K. Brennan are running for the 2 seats that are being vacated. When I say they are running, this is the slate that the LDC recommends. We did interviews with the board members to find out their needs. We interviewed all the folks who applied to be considered to be on the slate. And in a few moments when we run the election, we will then open up each of these seats to the membership. If anybody would like to challenge them for the seat, we will then hold an election. This is a member-run democratic organization, and while the LDC recommends these folks, this is an election, not an appointment, and if anybody would like to run, you've got to be eligible to sit on the board to run for a seat. You've got to be either an allied member, a school member, a faculty member, or a CE member. Supporting members, we appreciate your support, but the bylaws don't allow you to sit on the board. Right, that's what I just said. So now we'll have the election. Are there any questions about the way this will work? I will, for each seat, I will call for nominations from the floor 3 times. You can either nominate yourself and say, I would like to run, or you can say, I think so-and-so would be a great board member, but they would have to accept the nomination. And they must be here. Yeah. If there is a challenge, you'd have a few moments to speak about why you think you'd be a good board member, and the LDC recommended candidate would also have a few moments to speak, and then we would ask for votes. So the first seat is Dawn Hogue, who has been a board member and is running for re-election to fill the remaining year in the empty seat. Is there anybody who would like to run for the 1 year remaining in the term of the empty seat? Second call for nominations from the floor for the 1 year term. Third call for nominations from the floor for the 1 year term. Dawn Hogue is re-elected to the board by acclamation. So first call for nominations from the floor for the 2 years remaining in Bev's seat. The LDC recommends Michelle Renee for that seat. Are there any nominations from the floor? 2 year term. Second call for nominations from the floor for the 2 year term. Third call for nominations from the floor for the 2 year term. Michelle Renee is elected by acclamation. The remaining two seats that are up for election this year are full 3-year terms. And the first one, we recommend Randy Clark. Are there any nominations from the floor for the full 3-year term? Second call for nominations from the floor to challenge Randy Clark. Third call for nominations from the floor to challenge Randy Clark. Randy Clark is elected by acclamation. And the last opportunity to run for a seat, a full 3-year term for which the LDC recommends M.K. Brennan. Are there any nominations from the floor to run for this seat? Second call for nominations for a full 3-year term. Last call for nominations from the floor for a board seat. M.K. Brennan is elected by acclamation.
She's not here. I don't
And
think.
she's not here.
Yeah.
Right.
She's coming
The Leadership Development Committee, as Deborah said, is an elected, yeah? There are 2 more seats. Terry and Jody's seat are both up, and they have made it their intention to re-up and run for re-election, and the LDC recommends that they be re-elected. But are there nominations from the floor for the 3-year term that Terry Yardley Noor has been occupying? Second call for nominations from the floor for Terry's seat. Third call for nominations from the floor for Terry's seat. Terry Yardley Noor has been re-elected by acclamation. And Jody Scholes has indicated her interest in running for re-election. The LDC recommends her re-election. First call for nominations from the floor to challenge Jody Scholes. Second call for nominations from the floor for Jody's seat. Third call for nominations from the floor. Jody is re-elected by acclamation. The LDC, as Deborah said, is the only elected committee. Currently, Deborah is the chair, has been the chair since the committee was founded in 2010 at the organization's founding. Deborah and I were both re-elected last year electronically. Tim Herbert, Sue Bibick are both running for re-election, and we have had an empty seat on our committee. We have interviewed Carrie Johnson-Palava, and we propose that she fill the empty seat on our committee, but we will now hold an election for these 3 seats. And since I'm not running, I'm going to continue running the election unless somebody thinks I shouldn't because I'm on the committee. Anybody object to me running the election for the LDC? Okay, thank you. Tim Herbert. It's a 2-year term. All of the LDC terms are 2-year terms. Anybody, first call for nominations from the floor for the LDC Leadership Development Committee seat currently occupied by Tim Herbert. Second call for nominations from the floor for the Leadership Development Committee seat occupied by Tim Herbert. Third call for nominations from the floor for the Leadership Development Committee seat occupied by Tim Herbert. Tim has been re-elected by acclamation. Tim. First call for nominations from the floor for the Leadership Development Committee seat occupied by Sue Bibick. Second call for nominations from the floor for the LDC seat occupied by Sue Bibick. Third call for nominations from the floor for the LDC seat occupied by Sue. Sue Bibick has been re-elected by acclamation. First call for nominations from the floor for the currently empty Leadership Development Committee seat. Second call for nominations from the floor for the empty LDC seat. Last call for nominations from the floor for the empty LDC seat. Carrie Johnson Palava has been elected by acclamation. And thank you so much. We do this at every conference, and I'm always aware that you have always elected our slate every time. We put a lot of work into developing the slate. We think we pick candidates who are really good fits for the work the board needs to do, yet I'm acutely aware that this is a democracy, and I hope that it was clear that you had the choice to run. Thank you.
Let's engage in some strategic planning discussion. Theoretically, we have until 11 o'clock, and then Deanna's going to give her report. So we have about a half an hour, potentially, to talk about strategic planning. This is something new. We haven't asked you to be included in this, and it's, I think, an oversight not to include you. And this is a perfect time to do it because we're about to start a 5-year plan cycle, and we'd like your input. So in the Whova app, in the annual report, there's a summary of core functions in the current strategic plan. And basically, you can look at those to get some ideas of what we currently have been doing and, feeling as part of what we think fulfills our mission and vision. But I'd like your input as far as what do you think the Alliance needs to do on behalf of the education community? And what I'd like to start with is when we have coalition meetings with the other national organizations, it's ABMP, AMTA, CompTA, the Federation of State Licensing Boards, the Massage Therapy Foundation, and NCB-TMB, and the Alliance, those 7 groups. Each group has its own mandate, and they have their own board in general. And so the missions are not always, sometimes they're in conflict. What we try to do is find areas where we can collaborate and work together to advance the profession. And those of you who have, look at, oh, they met this year, wonder what happened there. Wish they'd do this or that. What I'd like you to talk about now is, are there things that you would like us to do or represent on your behalf in those meetings? Any ideas? Cindy? Include the AOBTA? Thank you for the suggestion. I think that there probably won't be expanding that group, but we can propose it. We can propose it. We can bring that up. Would someone take some notes so that we have, would you, Don? Thanks. So thank you for that suggestion. We will present it. I don't want to be a wet blanket, but I think that I've talked to the coalition about expanding membership and adding other organizations. There hasn't been a lot of support for that, but we can bring it up again. So you'd like to hear more of the detail of the deliberations? Yeah, I want to know what they're doing. Okay. I asked for this, right? Attendance is not open. There are 2 representatives potentially from each of the 7 organizations that meet. One of the agreements and the rules of the process is that we don't share deliberations. We don't share discussion, that we do share agreements that we decide to release. So what you get is this short little summary of, say, one or two things that the group came together to agree on. And personally, I would rather be more transparent, and I would rather share more of the process, but the rules of the organization preclude that. So what we would have to do is challenge those rules and say we need to be more transparent, and we can bring that up at the next meeting and bat it around again about transparency. Dawn also attends that meeting representing CompTA with Cliff Korn, and if you guys have any comment, that varies what I'm saying, how I'm representing what goes on in those meetings and what the kind of the rules of the road are, please share it. But would you say that I'm representing it accurately, Dawn, Cliff? Okay. And Doug, yeah, Doug's there too. Charlie, where's Charlie? She may not. There she is, right, Charlie's there. Would you say, Charlie, that I'm representing it accurately? Okay. All right. So now, if you have more ideas after this discussion today, you're not limited to just speaking up now. We want you to share your ideas ongoing on any of the topics that we bring up. And, coalition is the first one we're but if you have a thought later, please share it. Michael? It's a good point, and it is one that we have discussed. I would say last year, not this May, but May of 18, we talked about the AMTA's public relations campaign that was largely on pain management. And that was an attempt to educate the public, to reach out. I would say the organizations that have a larger budget have a greater capacity for outreach because it takes money just to get a message out there. But we're all concerned about that and have discussed how we can do that. And so that's well taken, that point. Any other thoughts about the coalition? Carrie?
And I'm very concerned about the future of massage and bodywork education in the United States, because there seems to be resistance to growth in education. There seems to be a commitment to 600 or 625 hour limitation, and that the idea of degree programs are not welcome. The idea of an AAS or an AS or an AA or BA or moving into that with support we're getting a lot of resistance. And I think this group should be very concerned about the limitations being put on an hourly, being mandated to only an hourly structure where we have competencies. Between CompTA and ELAP, there's competency-based education that can inform what schools do better than ours, and we need to look to the higher levels of education as to what the medical field might want us to be in, being partners with them, having degree programs, and that seems to be not part of the programs of the professional organizations. And I'm very worried about that.
I share your concern, Carrie. I think the member associations endorse the governor of the ELAP number of 625, and sometimes it's state regulation, and they're not supportive of a competency-based law to outline on a state-by-state basis how the massage education is practiced in their state. So, yeah, unfortunately, the organization sponsored ELAP and felt that if we now endorse a position that contradicts that which we very recently, by historical standards, mandated, the 625, then we're contradicting ourselves, was the general discussion. So I personally, and I think a lot of us, from what's been said in the survey, in the research that Nikki and Diane did, was that there is a concern that we need to raise the standard of education and to meet with, the inclusion in the healthcare system. Higher education standards are more called for, and that contradicts this idea of a 625. That's fine for starting, but maybe if we had a multi-tiered way of setting up, different levels of training, and that, the 625 maybe meets the entry level, but for entry level into healthcare, it could be higher, hospital work, that sort of thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think anything has to contradict the ELAP or CompTIA standards. I think that we need to have a way to include growth in our profession beyond just specialty certificates or continuing education, because I think we need people wanting higher level of education, and those are the people that may be moving us forward and really getting us into the health delivery system.
We need a way forward for those who want to raise the standards. Right. I agree. And Dawn, you got that in the note? Sure. Absolutely.
To agree with you, Carrie, and that's why CompTIA has the competencies that we do. But I would like to just reinforce that 600 or 625 is a minimum of. And so with that, then there is the inherent encouragement for more than. But when I hear that comment, it makes my mind just connect many dots that relate to things we've talked about already in the last couple of days. Are we a profession? Are we a vocation? What is our professional identity? And where do we go with that? From that. And from the exercise that we did yesterday, are there going to be employment opportunities that will then be able to support the cost of that additional education? And so it's just it's a matrix of things. I don't think it all boils down to the hours, but what are then the secondary things that come from that? And there is receptivity and openness to continuing to have those conversations. I think everyone in this room and on this stage, and I can say that everyone at the coalition is in support of the professional growth and you might disagree based on your experience in Minnesota, but in a broader picture, I feel certain that I can say that on behalf of the coalition. So thank you for bringing that forward, though.
Terry would like the mic.
Just to follow up on that and kind of bringing up about getting the public educated on this too is, as an enrollment process with many of the schools, the students are looking how fast they can get through school, get their, get started. So possibly kind of tandeming these two thoughts of educating the public on the importance of higher education and then have the higher education available. Does that make sense? That we have to make sure these students, because a lot of my students have, how soon can I get done? And is it 10 months? Is it 12 months? Can I get out of school? How fast can I get done and get out to work? And starting to educate them on the importance of stepping up those levels of what's available. And I love what Dawn said about the employment opportunities. We have to get employers willing to pay for these higher education processes.
So I want to move on, but I noticed you had your hand up, and I'd like her to speak. Yeah.
I'll go right over.
How many more are out there that wanted to speak? Whitney and this lady, Regina, and, okay, and Lauren? Okay.
Hello.
All right, so let's try to take at most 3 or 4 more, and then let's move to the next topic. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm concerned about how it seems like we don't look to other professions to see how they've done things, and that when we do, we look at other manual therapy professions. And I'm curious why we're not looking at psychologists and social workers and the model that they use with supervision and really building a mentorship community, that it wouldn't occur to you to just walk out of social work school and start seeing people. That's ludicrous, but that's what we do in massage. And we just had, my organization just did, we've been doing a monthly webinar series, and last month we talked about the future of education and the future of the profession. And one of the last questions we got was, who's driving this? And I think that we just pointed to who's driving it is people who think that they should be able to have a career after 9 months. And why are we saying that's okay? Why are we meeting the demands of people who want a quick job? And the last thing I'll say is that we were just teaching in British Columbia a few months ago, and I don't want to invite, obviously, open debate because we're in a limited time and there could be fists thrown, but in British Columbia, at least, they're regulated and unregulated. And so you get minimal training and you can give people a good rub, or you can be a healthcare provider. These are 2 ways that you can make a living, and these are 2 ways the public can access manual therapy. It's really clear. You either have a lot of training or you have very basic training. And as a consumer, that's a really easy system for me to see.
It makes a lot of sense.
Following along with what Lauren said and what you were getting at, Stan, too, I'd like to ask, when the coalition gets together and meets, we've been tiptoeing around this idea of tiered credentialing for a couple of decades at least. And we need to get on something. And so my request is when the coalition meets, I'd like, since we're talking about strategic planning, I'd like to know if everybody on the coalition can get together and decide that we need to actually do something about this. And if so, maybe we can start working on a strategic plan for what that would look like potentially, with a tiered level for a personal care service massage therapist that would not need to go through extensive training, but a more significant level of training for those that want to work in the healthcare professions. Because it's been obvious for decades that we need to do this, and we keep tiptoeing around and saying we need to do something, and we never do anything. So if the coalition can get together and say, okay, we finally need to actually make a plan and start working on this, I think it would really be very beneficial for the current and future of the profession.
Hi, I'm Regina, and I just wanted to just to say that I've been working for the community college for over 19 years, been CompTIA accredited since 2004. And what my concern is that when I first started, I was the only school that had an associate's degree. And then many schools in New England had associate's degree or community colleges. What saddens me right now is that we're losing community colleges, and in my area, we've lost already 5, and they're knocking on the door trying to do things to my program because they don't see the profession going anywhere, and I'm very concerned about when we talk about increasing education. This community college, we don't have any more programs now in massage. And that is a big concern because I think what we're talking about, we're a little bit late now, and I don't know how to bring it back to the community colleges. And I would like more support from our organizations to help promote the colleges that are doing the work that I've been doing for 19 years, and other colleges or other community colleges that are here, because we have lots of struggles, and it's lots of politics that are in the, and we need support from our organizations to help us stay alive.
Thank you.
I think we might
Is it okay, can I cut off that phase and go to the next topic? This one, we could talk about this for a while, I think. We're only going to have about 7 more minutes in this phase of the meeting, and then we need to move on. But the next thing I would like to try to talk about is teacher certification is something that we have been working on with the National Teacher Education Standards Project, working and eventually implementation of the requirement for certified teachers in the massage schools, in the CE classroom, but that's going to take implementation of state laws, changes in state laws and accreditation standards. So phase 5 of NTESP is complicated because it's a political process, and it's largely out of our control as this small organization. One of the things, the criticisms that I've heard is that, gee, I hope we're not putting all of our eggs in this one basket, and what happens if that doesn't catch fire and become a well accepted thing in the massage profession. So are you concerned that we're too focused on teacher certification and potentially teacher training, which will be a way to prepare people for certification? Are there other things that you think we should be focused on besides those 2 major next efforts, teacher certification, teacher training, to raise the quality of massage education? What would you have us do besides those things? This lady in the back. She's going to bring you a mic.
If we don't have any students, it's not going to matter. I would really like to see the coalition support public education about the profession.
Thank you. And then
The other concern is you just said if it's largely out of your control in terms of the states really making this happen in the political process, why is it such a strategic part of the plan if we really can't control it? And to the other point is, yes, if there are no students and the schools are diminishing, what does it matter if we are certified?
Well, if I can speak to that, it matters if you're better trained to yourself, it matters to your students, it matters to your school. As people become, educated to the value of certified teachers, it will matter more and more to the public and people who are coming to schools. If their schools have certified teachers, there'll be a better way of marketing that school because they're offering an enhanced education compared to others, potentially. So, I mean, we knew this was, phase 5 was going to be a political process from the beginning, but yeah, we undertook it anyway because we think there's value, even if it doesn't get changed quickly in the political realm.
Hi. I apologize if it sounds like I'm reiterating what's already been said, but I think what it comes down to is 3 different aspects of educating the consumer on what a massage really is and what it can do for them, educating our potential students on where they can go to school, such as our community colleges, that it's not just, Cortiva and big organizations that offer massage education, but that community colleges offer a great massage education, and promoting that, and then also encouraging students, to go that route and supporting those community colleges, in promotion of those programs. So I think that it's really those 3 aspects that go into it, and, educating the teachers, getting the teachers better at those community colleges and throughout the schools but, promoting to the students that there is this community college aspect, because I think that they look to just massage schools and don't realize that the community colleges do have great programs. It's not what the consumer is looking for. They don't think community college when they think, where should I go to massage school? They think massage school. So I think that we have three different aspects that need to be covered, where school is available, what you're looking for, or who might go to get that massage, why they need a massage, not always a doctor. If it's not something to cut off or medicate, that they might need a massage, and that we need to promote those. We need more education of the consumer.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Doug.
I think we need to support state reciprocity and a national standard for state licensing across borders. The biggest problem, while we all have great schools, but we're all teaching to us whatever our state is mandating, they were able to adopt one exam for testing nationwide. Why can't we adopt a national curriculum so that way a student who goes to school in Minnesota can move to Texas and not have to reinvent the wheel and have to go back to school, which is a frustrating, prospect. There's a few states out there, and unfortunately my state's one of them. I know we're guilty of it because of the standards that we have. So I actually would like to see the Federation, since they have such a strong connection with the state boards, to work on that, as well as working with educators and trying to create that to make that happen.
Let me say that there is a pathway to that, and it's if we made programmatic accreditation a requirement for all massage programs, and then the CompTIA level type of standards became the entry point for a school, or the requirement, then you wouldn't have to change 50 state laws. You just have one policy change and require accreditation. The standards would take care of the rest. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I think one of the other things that you're asking for, other things you can bring your attention to.
Right.
And I believe that it's not just educating students about coming into our schools, but what are the opportunities when they graduate? Is it always going to be 25 hours a week, period? No full-time positions? Or how can we help our employers to create full-time positions with all the benefits, time off, health, dental, whatever? So that, to me, would be more the way to attract more people to our industry. That's what I think is lacking, and that's what we hear from, well, how much can I make? Oh, is that all? Are there benefits? Well, very few, and they say they have benefits, but it's not really that type of profession. It looks like a part-time profession right now, and that, I think, could improve.
That's a good point. We need to cut this discussion. There's a lot of creative thoughts in this room and a lot of ideas that we're just skim the surface to begin to hear from you on this. So I again want to encourage you, please continue to think and share your ideas if you email afmte.org or Naomi, the board it'll come to our attention and we will consider your thoughts, try to integrate them into our strategic plan and into our interactions with the coalition. So thanks for your input during this process so far today. Thanks. Okay, now the fun part. Fun because it's a joy to give this award to this person. The President's Award was established to recognize outstanding service by a member or members in support of the Alliance mission and goals. The president is authorized to choose recipients at his or her discretion. That's an honor to be able to do, I can say. The award is designed to acknowledge the good works of a member. So, in pursuit of my authority to acknowledge the good works of a member, I chose Deborah Curtis. Now, there are some points on this slide, but you cannot have enough slides with points of praise and productivity and accomplishments, honors. We've said, Deborah co-owns and is the executive director of the Sutherland Chan School of Massage in Toronto, right? Yep. But in 2010, when we elected our first LDC group, Deborah was elected. She became the chair, I think, chosen by the committee. Or were you elected the chair? She was appointed, the board appointed her chair? Okay. Well, she's been the first and only chair of the LDC since this entire operation, this organization began. And I have to say that the LDC is literally the root system of this organization. If we are a healthy, functioning organization, it is largely due to the contribution of the LDC. And they feed all of the committee members. They have renewed the board annually with a slate of new board members that they put on the slate and that have been elected by acclamation virtually every time, wisely. Wisely because it was a very painstaking process to select that slate. And Deborah has presided over that process the entire time that this organization has existed. I can say that she is the best chair of any committee probably in the history of this entire profession, not just this organization. If you have a committee that you want to run smoothly, to be well organized, to have the meetings run well, to develop the right culture of collegial discussion, she's your woman, your person. She is beloved by her committee. It's not just respected or they think, oh, she does a good job. It's gushingly, almost embarrassing for her, I'm sure, to hear how beloved she is by her committee members. Oh, pardon me. That was me. Yeah, that was a pretty loud heartbeat. I actually am almost moved to tears when I think about the kind of love that Deborah has inspired in her committee. There just aren't words to say how strongly your people feel about you and think, not only do you do a good job, but and run things well, but you're just so perfectly suited to run this committee and run the discussions. And it takes a comprehensive understanding of so many things to do the LDC's work. They not only have to know people in the community, they have to be familiar with what's going on in the board, what are the needs of the board, and then they need to meet the people and figure out their interest and how much time they have and what skills they have. And there's a matching of what the needs are with what the candidates' skills are and their availability. And it's an art. There's some science to it, but a lot of it is judging character, which if you've ever had to hire a staff, how many hires are just right? I mean, they don't all work out, when you're hiring folks. But the percentage of things working out in this organization has been very high, largely because of the work of the committee, but in great measure to Deborah's leadership. She is also an author. She's written a book on breast massage and one massage therapy and cancer. She has a publishing company, Curtis Overset Publications. The AMTA, many years ago, had the good sense to award her the Council of Schools Meritorious Service Award when the AMTA had a Council of Schools. She's been involved in the profession at a level, a volunteer level, that's very high for a long time. And it's far past time that she's acknowledged for her great contribution to the Alliance. I'd like Deborah to come forward and to address. She has a few remarks to make, and I have an award for her that I'm going to give you in that little envelope over there. So, Deborah, would you please come up and make some remarks?
Thank you so much, everybody. And thanks, Stan. Stan has been great to work with. One of the things that he hasn't said is that the Leadership Development Committee, and me as chair, needs a really good ongoing rapport with the president and the executive committee and members of the board. And I really do feel that it's that dialogue and that ongoing kind of collaborative effort that really keeps this organization going. And I just want to really thank Stan for being so great to work with. Thank you. And of course for choosing me for this award. I certainly appreciate it. And I'm well aware that this is such a great honor, and I truly, truly do feel humbled and appreciative to receive it. Thinking about what I wanted to say, and I'm just going to speak briefly, but I was looking back on when I started out in the kind of organizational realm for massage therapy educators, and it's back to the early days of the Council of Schools, and there's a few people in the room, I think, who will remember this, but it was a very small organization, independent at the time, ultimately not financially self-supporting enough to move forward, but we would sit around, oh, there's Iris. We would sit around a kind of rectangular table, and there'd be like 30 or 40 of us, and we would spend several days debating the issues of the day in massage therapy education. And that forum was so important. We ended up having the earlier discussions about accreditation and other things, but that place to dialogue and debate and really kind of form positions in terms of being a leadership voice in massage therapy education was so important. And a lot of it was like, we had a taste of it, as we were just talking today, and some of the things that were said yesterday in the exercises. Since those days, which were many years ago now, we've seen a lot of growth and a lot of development in the profession and a lot of changes in massage therapy education. And I'm part of the group that sees the positives in that and sees some of the major concerns about where the profession is going and how healthy the future of the profession is and where massage therapy education is going. And for me, I think it's so important to say we need an organization like the Alliance that can take up the mantle of being that voice, right? It's not only providing services to members, which is very important. It's not only providing resources, but we need a forum for debate and discussion, and we need a leadership voice. And I think the Alliance, you know, despite being a young organization, has a lot of potential to continue to become that voice and become a strong and sort of powerful part of the various conversations that go on that help us establish and expand, you know, where we want the profession to go. So, to me, having been involved with the Alliance from the beginning, the commitment from my viewpoint was to always try to be part of organizations that are taking up the mantle of being that voice. Having been involved with the Alliance since its very beginnings, and this is back in Park City, right, where we started in 2010, for me personally, it's also been a lot of fun. I mean, I think one of the things that we think about in the Alliance is, in the Leadership Development Committee in particular, is that it's really important for volunteers, you know, because we're largely volunteers here, right, moving an important organization forward. It's really important to feel like the volunteer work you're doing matches your skills and matches your interests and is also important, is meaningful. And one of the things that I particularly enjoy is being around at the beginnings and sort of early development stages of organizations. It just really interests me. You know, what does the organization need? What are the resources it needs early on, right? How does it grow into its sense of purpose? How does it build the team that it needs to move forward? What are the policies and what are the visions, and, you know, how do we get all those things in place? And then kind of get our legs under us and then stumble forward, which is certainly what the Alliance did, you know, what a lot of organizations do, especially at the beginning. And then, you know, picking up on where those weak spots are and, you know, talking to others about, you know, what do we need to do next and who are the right kind of people to be in the leadership roles next and all of that. Really kind of interesting and fun to me. And so being a part of a team that helped move this organization forward was really gratifying. And kind of, yes, leaned on my strengths to some extent, but also really helped me grow and understand and learn new things in a way that's always really a good thing to be part of. The LDC, and I just want to pause for a minute here and acknowledge, you know, we've had members over the years, Joe Lubau and Tim Herbert, and I would also say Sue Bibick and Tracy Walton as the kind of key long-term members of the group. Were always more than just colleagues. It was really all about colleagues with a shared sense of purpose, but also really good friends and great people to work with. And so much of this, you know, is not just about me, it's about the chemistry within the LDC and how we've moved our work forward. So thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Can't see where Sue is. Also, I want to acknowledge people who weren't on the group as long, but definitely made important contributions. Susan Beck. I don't know if any of these people are in the room. Lisa Curran-Parento, David Lauderstein, Nancy Levitt. And we've also had a number of board liaisons, Stan, Pete, Krista, Bev, and Dawn, all have been great to work with and very much part of the team at every moment. My sense of, you know, what I've learned and what the Alliance has given me is, because I'm kind of a bit more of a thinker than a people person, my orientation is to kind of think about the organization and to think about the, you know, the sort of pieces that come next and all of that. And what I've learned, partly from running a school for many years, but also partly from being part of this organization, is that those things are all good. The vision is good, the plans are good, the ideas are good, the sense of purpose is good, but ultimately it is about the people. And none of that actually moves forward if the right people don't step up, and if the sort of group doesn't come forward with the people resources that are needed. And for me, recognizing that and really internalizing that has been a big piece of the learning that the Alliance has sort of afforded me. And so, ultimately, what we've come to then is kind of a perfect and always engaging match for me in terms of my volunteering in the organization. And Stan said it a little bit earlier, that what do we need and where are we going and who are the people that are going to be in, the ones that we can look at and talk to and see if we can get them in the right places to move the organization forward. That sort of matchmaking role. So, finding the people who will move the organization forward in the ways that are needed in that moment has always been really gratifying, because there's so many dedicated, talented people in this organization. So this organization is actually a great place to be a matchmaker in that sense, because so many of you have leadership skills and experience and resources to come together and sort of move this forward. And really, honestly, whenever we've really needed to find people, those people have been there. So thank you to you. Thanks again for this great honor. And I'm very mindful that I share it with the LDC as a whole, and appreciate and love you guys. And thank you for making me look good.
We're a little over schedule, but there is one more thing. Okay. All right. We're going to wait on that. We're going to go now to Deanna. And so, board, let's exit the stage whichever side you want and make room for Deanna's report. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thanks for the acclamation for the new elected folks.